The autumn here was very fine, but now, quite suddenly, the trees are bare. Such changes. At your age, the sere and yellow leaf excites no terror. Mrs. Ricardo will be staying with us, Mrs. Beavis, for a week at least. I want her to have full wet sheet packings 3 times a day.
Yes, Doctor.
Mrs. Ricardo is suffering from nervous prostration. She will require rest and sleep. A total relaxation. She has come to us at the Priory House for sanctuary.
The young lady knows our ways. No sort of fuss. Will there be something else, Dr. Gully?
Thank you, no. I'll discuss her diet with you later.
Very good, Doctor.
Florrie.
What shall I do? I'm so afraid.
No. Come. You'll catch cold. Now, you've experienced this treatment before. You know what it does. There is no hydropathic remedy more sure than this, nothing more soothing. Soon, your whole body will be suffused in a delicious glow, tinted like the rose. And now, you will sleep. Oh, yes, you will, I promise you.
Must you go?
Not of my own volition, but I have other patients. And you must remain in the packing and sleep for a full hour.
I can't. I keep thinking. I have left him. This time forever. I shall never go back to him again.
You've suffered. I know.
Only you know how much.
Sleep, Florrie. That's the best. One hour. No longer.
Do you want?
You must. Be still.
No. You beastly. No! I didn't hate him. I wanted him to understand. To understand. What is it?
It's all right, dear girl. Not tight, I promise. The fellow must do something when he's with other fellows, you know. I mean, well, it's a beastly boils, you know. Florence.
You'll never touch me unless you're drunk.
Cut it! Look, I don't want your pie, Joe. No, listen, Florence. Coming home from the club tonight, I thought about you. I wanted you. If you'd been there by cars, I would have... I still want you now. Florence.
Oh, Alex, be gentle. Be gentle, Alex, be kind. Oh, my love. No. What have I done?
It's all about you. God, what a fool I was.
Dearest, I only want you to love me. Nothing but that, just to love me. Why? What does it matter to you, this other thing to a woman? It doesn't matter. If only you knew how little. Oh, my dear one, don't cry. Alex, don't cry. I only want you to love me, just to love me.
Don't let me, Florence. Know what it is, you see? The damn stuff is killing me.
Why drink? Promise me now again, promise me.
Shall I go mad?
No, Alexander.
Captain Ricardo!
Help me!
Alexander! What is the meaning of this? You disturbed my daughter! How dare you! Come on, help me! I say let go! Captain Ricardo, you may not see my daughter!
Wife to me! Get him away!
Captain Ricardo!
Get him away!
Mother! Good child, be careful! Stop, Alexander, I'm here. Run to his house and fetch Dr. Egan. Yes, the whole of Blanche Square will have heard this. What your father will say, I do not know.
Mother!
Mother's dead, you know.
I want her. Not you! Please!
Surely your father will understand now that you cannot live with such a man.
Let father say what he will. I shall go back to Malvern. If Alexander wants me and is able, let him follow. Wants me. No. Wants. No. Landon, is Captain Ricardo home? Landon, are you there? Alexander, what are you doing? Oh, stop. Do you hear? Give me that bottle.
Oh!
How dare you? And you are fit for nothing better.
So good for me, that's what you were. Too good for any man. Let them all go free themselves, your fashion. But I don't need that. Would you believe that I've got a mistress? And what we do together, you've never dreamed. Good. Oh, good. Oh, I insult her by calling you that name. I insult anyway. Oh, God, I should die here.
No.
I should die.
Alexander, you must not die. You must not.
The bottle, where's the bottle?
No, not that. I'll get you something else.
The bottle?
No, it'll make you sick. I know.
So you, by God, it's true then. Man, they never turned me so before. My guts up. Whose idea of dosing my drink, huh?
It's you. You do enough of that yourself.
You! You lying bitch! You know, Wise, would you put it in make me throw up 60 times a day? Stop me drinking. Did Gully teach you that?
How dare you even speak of him?
You bastard! What's he want with you? You care for anyone but me! You bitch! You bitch! I'm sorry! Don't leave me! Life's not gonna leave me in the dark! Why are you killing me? You're killing me! Oh, Christ! I'm blind!
Good. Your pulse is normal. No longer the fluttering bird that came to me 10 days ago. How do you feel?
Now, in paradise.
I fear you cannot stay there much longer. In a few minutes, Mrs. Beavis will be here to give you your last treatment.
But you'll stay with me until she comes.
If you want. What do you plan to do now when you leave us? Go home to your parents at Buscott Park?
I cannot. My father will insist that I go back to Alexander.
Even now? After this last assault? What violence we do to one another, and in the name of moral rectitude.
What shall I do then?
You're an artful little devil. You know very well if you appeal to me, I can deny you nothing. But there is a danger here.
Danger?
Yes, for both of us. I am a doctor who has introduced a revolutionary form of treatment. I have been accused of every crime in the medical calendar except improper conduct with a patient. Of that, at least, my reputation is free.
Your reputation? You have the greatest reputation as a doctor of anyone in England.
I could produce a very splendid roll call of the famous who've come to me for treatment. All the same, I should be foolish to imagine that any slip on my part would fail to be exploited by my enemies among my colleagues. And enemies enough there are.
If you help me, that could injure you.
It would depend upon your terms.
I don't understand, James. Forgive me. If I may harm you, then I shall go away. I would not harm you, my dearest, my only friend now.
A friend. That is what I shall be.
A father and a friend. Is it not possible?
It is most possible. And if you ask it, so shall it be. As a father, I may perhaps be a little rusty. My own daughter grew up and married so long ago. But as a friend, I can advise you. And any friend today will tell you the first thing you need.
And that is?
A good solicitor. You have one?
Yes. Mr. Henry Brooks of Streatham.
I know him, but he's a first-rate fellow. Just your man. And I'm sure Mrs. Brooks would offer you a home with them in London until you find yourself a permanent residence. You would have to obtain a deed of separation. But you're young. The chains can still be broken. As for me, I have made my own decision to remove from Malvern. I shall retire within the year.
James.
Free to take up my new responsibilities of fatherhood. A new beginning for both of us.
The money my father settled on me at my marriage. We must make sure on that.
As witness my hand dated this 3rd day of March, 1871. That is the deed of separation. Now you say, I deliver this as my act and deed.
I deliver this as my act and deed.
Sign your name here, please. Dr. Gully and I are entered as trustees. We must proceed expeditiously. I understand Captain Ricardo intends to leave for Europe at the end of the month.
With a woman, Mr. Brooks.
That had come to my ears, I'm sorry to say. Fortunately, his plans benefit us in the present business. The terms of the separation have been quite generous, and I've consulted again with your father, Mr. Campbell. The position is that the arrangements under the terms of your marriage settlement from him remain unaltered. You have a first life interest in the capital.
I have assured Mrs. Ricardo she need have no anxieties on financial grounds.
No, Mrs. Ricardo is well provided for. Oh, my children, this is not the place I usually conduct my business, but since Mrs. Ricardo is living with us for the present...
Oh, forgive me. I had not expected...
No, Mrs. Cox, we are the intruders. We have kept Mr. Brooks at home when he ought to be at his office.
Oh, I see. Alice has left her chalks. If you will excuse me.
You don't know Dr. Gully, do you?
No, I have not the pleasure.
Dr. Gully, this is Mrs. Cox. She's engaged as governess to Mrs. Brooks's children.
How do you do, ma'am?
I have heard, of course, of Dr. Gully. I am a follower of the homeopathic school of medicine.
Aha! Then I'm more convinced than ever that Mr. Brooks's children are in good hands.
My wife and I are fortunate in Mrs. Cox. She combines discipline with kindness.
But there is something else between Dr. Gully and Mrs. Cox that only I know. Tell Mrs. Cox where you were born.
Kingston, Jamaica.
You see.
My family also are in Jamaica.
Indeed.
Yes. I lived there myself until my husband's death 4 years ago.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Unfortunately, I only knew the country in my childhood. I came to England when I was 9 years old.
Dr. Gully's father was the owner of a coffee plantation.
Yes, the pity there are no such fortunes to be made today.
Because the slaves are free?
Yes, Dr. Gully, and no better for it.
Oh, well, if they are not, then we are. In fact, my father lost most of his wealth. Still, I believe no man should be a slave and no man freed of labor. So I set myself to work. In consequence, I've enjoyed a busy life and made a fortune. No, there is no worse fate for a young fellow than to repose on several £1,000s per annum and do nothing.
Oh, I meet a great many young fellows in the city who hold the contrary opinion.
Then they are wrong.
No doubt, Mrs. Ricardo. But as they will tell you, if they are to pay for their errors, they prefer to do it cash.
Mr. Brooks, you're quite a cynic.
A consequence of my profession.
That is a mere excuse.
If you will forgive me, I will return to my charges.
Yes, or there'll be ructions in the schoolroom.
I hope I may meet Dr. Gully again.
Indeed, ma'am. We must discuss our native land.
Mrs. Cox has promised to come with me to the country one day. I've told her the air will put some colour in her cheeks.
Mrs. Ricardo kindly suggested that I take the children,
Oh.
if Mrs. Brooks approves.
To Buscott, to meet my parents.
You were right, and I was wrong then. No bones broken. Your mother catches me in here, she'll send me packing.
Papa, why don't you use the gun room?
Light's bad in there. Mustn't be ruled by women.
You just admitted you should have paid more heed to me.
Did I ask you to marry the fellow? I told you he was a milksop from the very first. In his fine guard's uniform.
Yet you refused to let me leave him.
Damn it, of course.
For what the world would say of me.
Don't you ignore the world.
I shall never care what people say of me, but do as I want.
Then be prepared to suffer for it. You know the trouble with you, Florrie? You inherited my temper, your mother's will, a nasty combination. Though I dare say you needed both with your Ricardo. Fancy the scoundrel going off to Germany with his damn mistress. Brooks had the measure of him. You've got your 1,000 a year, and good riddance. Why don't you come back home? It'll please your mother. Wouldn't hurt me. And none of you at home now since Herbert died.
No, Father.
Damn it, why not?
Because if I come back, it will be just as it was before, and I am not a child now. I'm a married woman. I must have my independence.
Independence? You're only 25 years old. Who is going to take care of you?
No one. I don't need taking care of.
Not that rascal Gully your mother packed you off to. I won't have that.
Papa, be careful.
You made him a trustee, I noticed, of the separation. That should have been your brother William. How old is the fellow anyway? 60 or 70? Be dead before the ink's dry.
You shall not!
Shall not what?
You must not speak of him like that. Dr. Gully is a great man, noble and honorable, my friend, and my protector.
What's that? Protector? That little runt? That quack? That charlatan?
I shall not listen to you.
Yes, you will, my lady. I see now why your mother wanted you at home. What has Gully got to do with your protection? Has he no family of his own?
His children are grown up. He married again. He and his wife have lived apart for many years now.
Ah, two of a feather, are you?
If you want. She is older than he is, and insane. I will not be questioned. You ask me to come back home? Shall I be sent to my room if I disobey you? Eat my meals alone? I am a child no longer. If my love means so much to you, as you have told me, you must love me as I am.
Yes, as you've always been, willful and proud.
I have not changed then. Why do you think I shall?
Florrie! Don't let us quarrel so soon again. He can be nothing to you. Tell me.
Dr. Gully is my dearest friend. As soon as he retires, we shall go on holiday together in France and Italy. I have promised him to do so, and nothing you can say will alter my intentions.
I shall cut you off. I'll stop your allowance under the marriage settlement.
You cannot.
Your brothers are the trustees, and I shall tell them.
What's all this shouting?
You should have spoken plainer. Mrs. Brooks was right to warn you.
Mrs. Brooks? How has she dared?
Gully is her protector. That's what she calls.
And why not, Mama? There's a telegram for you. Just come.
Well?
It is from Mr. Brooks. He has had word from Cologne. Alexander died there yesterday. From delirium tremens. Dead.
It was his weakness. I warned you from the start.
Robert, however he behaved.
I am a widow. With 40,000 pounds. Do you still tell me how I shall behave? And who shall be my friends?
Do as you choose with his money, but not with mine.
Mine. On my marriage. It was not you that lived with him and fought and pleaded, betrayed and humiliated over and over again. I never had a husband, only a drunken child. Well, now I have my freedom. That you cannot take from me. And if you try to meddle in my marriage settlement, then I shall fight you, no matter what the scandal, through every court in England.
Florence! Robert, tell her you didn't mean it. You're too harsh.
She shall obey me and end with Gully.
She will, I know.
Not ever. Nothing you do can make me. He is the finest man in England. You're too small to understand. If I must never see you again, then I shall be loyal to him. You care nothing for my feelings. You should love me most. I think it is a shame. I hate you.
Florence!
No, let her go! This time, I've done with her.
Is Mrs. Ricardo going to take this place then, sir?
Possibly. How do you like it, Griffiths?
Oh, just a ticket, sir. And a nice little lodge, too. Not that I prefers London to Malvern, though, sir. And the old days with you, eh, Doctor?
Oh, Mrs. Ricardo tells me she's very pleased with you. She says the horses have never looked smarter.
Well, that's my treatment of them, sir. I doses them same as I did yours, with tartar emetic.
I thought you never gave my horses any drugs.
Oh, no, Doctor. I use it as a lotion, you see. Knowing your view of things.
Yes, well, I prefer not to have to use drugs on any creature, animal or human. Horses can be treated hydropathically.
Just as I said, Doctor, with the water. Oh, they'd be in good hands with you. There's no doubt about that, sir.
What do you think?
Fine. With castellated battlements. Just the style.
Oh, it is. It's quite splendid. Come with me, James. I want you to see inside.
It's quite a mansion.
15 rooms. This will be the drawing room?
I see. All in the Gothic style.
Yes. You must help me to plan it all. Pictures, curtains, furnishings. Is it not a pity this room is at the back?
You could improve things with a small conservatory.
Oh, yes. And French windows out of this bay. Then there'd be a private entrance. Just for you. I want to make myself secure against the world.
Why? Does it threaten you, the world?
Why, yes. Do you not feel that?
Not especially. Now, the world has always seemed to me a very decent place to live.
Sometimes I feel that I am older than you are.
Sometimes you are.
Let's look upstairs. This is the best bedroom.
With a dressing room through here. Florence, my dear, answer me something straight and true.
What?
What you said downstairs about the world. Is it because of me that you feel this? Is it I who have set the world against you?
Why should you ask that?
Because I fear it. The separation from your parents, that was because of me.
It's because my father tried to stop my income. He had no right to do that, so I went to law. And won my case.
All the same, it troubles me. You have so few friends.
I have you.
Can I be everything, friends and family? If I were your husband, it might be otherwise.
You cannot be my husband. Your wife is living.
And if she dies, she may die very soon.
I am happy as I am. It's you who are dissatisfied, not I.
Dissatisfied?
You gave up as much as I did, your whole life in Malvern.
That I should have done in any case.
You wouldn't have come to live in London?
I have many interests here. I have my London friends, my writing. No, I have surrendered nothing. But you have given all for me.
Do you know what this house is called?
No?
The Priory.
Is it true?
So you see, I must take it. I came to you at your priory at Malvern. Now you shall come to me at my priory in Balham. And there's something else. Did you notice as we were driving up the hill, a pleasant villa on this side with an agent's border?
Yes.
Wouldn't that do splendidly for you?
Of course I shall have it. Then we shall be close neighbors still. And I shall call it, after your old house at Malvern, I shall call it Orwell Lodge.
Oh, yes, how jolly. You will have your lodge, and I, 10 acres. Look, you could walk here across the fields. I shall have a gate with a little key, especially for you.
I shall make me a willow cabin at your gate. Dear, dear Florrie.
And you mustn't think I shall be lonely. I have a plan already to deal with that.
You are an awful schemer. What have you thought of now?
Nothing to do with you. I can live and breathe without your company. I have found a friend.
This is a good time for you to call. The children are lying down after their luncheon.
That is why I came at this time.
Oh, but Mrs. Brooks has gone to London.
I'm not sorry for that at all. I think you know Mrs. Brooks and I had quarreled before I left this house. It had to do with Dr. Gully. I felt that Mrs. Brooks was interfering in matters that were no concern of hers at all. Well, we won't waste time on that. Is this Marsala?
Yes, I think it is. Mrs. Ricardo, do you think you should until Mrs. Brooks returns?
Oh, fiddlesticks. Considering the fees I've paid to Mr. Brooks, I hardly think his wife will grudge me a small glass of Marsala. And one for you. Dr. Gully would disapprove. Although he allows me a little wine now and then. Not, of course, that I was ever in the habit.
No, of course.
And this is a special occasion. Do you know why? I have a very important proposal I want to put to you.
To me?
Yes, Jane. I want you to come to me as my companion. I can offer £80 a year, all found. What do you say?
£80.
I'm sure that is a great deal more than you receive from Mrs. Brooks.
Indeed it is.
Your duties would not be too heavy. I should want you to help me run the house. I am negotiating for the lease of a larger property at present. My place in the Liam Court Road is really too small. Well, what do you say?
I should like to accept, of course. The offer is most generous. As you know, I am a widow without sufficient means.
And you have your children to consider. 2 boys, haven't
3.
you?
2 are at school in Streatham. Mr. Joseph Bravo helped me to obtain places for them. Mr. and Mrs. Bravo have been most kind to me. Oh, Mrs. Ricardo.
Call me Florence, please.
Everyone has been most kind. I really do not know what I should say. I must consider Mrs. Brooks, of course. although she has told me that she will shortly need my room here. She has told me that she is expecting a child.
Then there is no possible reason to refuse. You must accept. You will. Oh, dear Jane. Dr. Gully will be delighted. He thinks I am alone too much.
I trust he will approve.
But I should want you to take up your duties at the Priory as soon as possible. You see, Dr. Gully and I are traveling abroad again, to Bavaria. He wants me to try the baths at Kissingen.
How fine to travel with such an interesting man.
My dearest Mrs. Cox, many thanks for your kind letter and parcels. Will you tell Rance that I have no intention of building a greenhouse, and I told Griffiths that he was not to sleep in the house, and my order is to be obeyed. I have such horrid baths now. I have to sit half an hour in this nasty, horrid stuff, just like liquid manure. If it does me good, I shall not mind, but it is not agreeable. Will you, in the course of the next week, compare Peg's prices for coals with Pigot's, as I should like the cellar to be filled before I return? I am anxious to hear of the safe arrival of the cheque I sent you. If it fails to reach you, write at once to London at County Bank, Great Malvern, to stop its payment. As I have endorsed it, anyone could cash it, but I hope you get it all safe. Please see Paxton for me, and tell him to take no orders from anyone but me. I am so glad all the dogs and horses are well. I am getting on with the lace for the mantelpiece. With kindest love, yours very affectionately, Florence Ricardo. Come in. Beautiful. Everything is so still.
How clear your eyes are. That's the spa water. Marsala would never make them sparkle like that.
Oh, but it makes me sparkle as water never does.
Mm.
I'm only teasing. With so much beauty, I don't need wine.
Yeah. I should have said that. Is it too late? With all your beauty, I don't need wine. One more deep breath. You must leave the room. Leave the room.
Mrs. Ricardo.
I shall call you back when I need you.
Oh, Janie.
It's all right, I'm here.
I feel swimmy.
It's the chloroform, the nasty smell.
Where is he?
Dr. Gully's washing his hands.
Has he told you?
Shh, Florence, you must lie still. Don't fuss.
in my back.
Yes, come in.
You will be well now. It was as I told you. I have removed the tumor.
Shall I bring her anything?
Some weak, sweet tea.
No, I
She
don't...
should try a little. It must be just warm, not hot, you understand?
I'll just tell Mary Ann.
She's kind.
Can you forgive me? Ever? If I had thought it possible...
What does it matter? Suppose something has happened to me. I've heard of when I may die.
You will not die, I swear to you. God knows I have been guilty, negligent, but not in this. You are in my hands, and I shall make you well again. Say you believe me.
I do. But Jimmy, you will. When I am well, you will not ask again.
If you can still accept me as your friend, I shall be happy.
You are my friend, of course.
Then you must trust me. All will be well.
Thank you, I can manage.
Looking in the pink again, ma'am? It's good to see that.
I want to go first to the Army and Navy stores. We have to pick up Mrs. Cox on the way home. She's going to visit her friends, Mr. and Mrs. Bravo.
What part is that then, ma'am?
Palace Green in Kensington. I have the number.
Alice Green. Mrs. Cox's friends is doing all right then?
Mrs. Ricardo, madam.
Well, my dear, I am Mrs. Joseph Bravo. My husband, Mr. Joseph Bravo.
How do you do?
If Jane is ready, I told her I should be passing and would call.
Oh, but you will stay a moment. We were just talking to Mrs. Cox about her boys and how kind you've been to her.
I hope Mrs. Cox has not overpraised me. I'm sure she owes much more to you than she does to me.
Well, we mustn't set up in competition, must we? Like the tradespeople. And how do you find Balham? Mrs. Cox tells us you're quite settled in now.
Well, there is still quite a lot to do on the estate.
Really? That is something we can't afford in Kensington. Can we, my dear?
It's the penalty I fear we pay for living in the town.
Oh, but the suburbs are most fashionable. In this modern age, Mrs. Cox can travel here in less than 20 minutes on the railway train. Oh, Joseph, please offer Mrs. Ricardo a glass of sherry.
Thank you, Mrs. Bravo, but I mustn't stay. As I said, I have a lot to see to.
And I have already taken up too much of Mr. and Mrs. Bravo's time.
Well, of course, if you insist, my dear. I had so looked forward to making your acquaintance. Mrs. Cox says so little and is so secretive about you. You are quite a mystery to us, and mysteries are always so intriguing. We hear more of Jamaica than we do of you.
Then Mrs. Cox respects my privacy. If I am a mystery, I fear I shall remain one.
Of course, my dear. That is for you to choose.
Are you ready, Governor? Oh, I say I am.
Charles.
Sorry, I didn't realize.
This is Mrs. Ricardo, Mrs. Cox's friend and her employer. Mr. Charles Bravo, my son.
Pleased to meet you. I was just leaving for the temple.
Charles is a barrister.
Of course, she was married before to a Mr. Turner. Her son is by that marriage. He's very fond of his stepfather. His own father died when he was very young. He has taken the name, so he is now Charles Turner Bravo.
Bravo? Mr. Joseph Bravo? I know the father.
The stepfather?
That's what I mean. He's a big name in the city and the Reform. That's how I know him. Only by sight, that is.
My late husband knew his partner in Jamaica. When I came to England, he was kind enough to furnish an introduction.
Oh, interesting how the ties of trade bind us together. There is Jamaican blood in many an Englishman, as well as rum.
There's certainly Jamaican blood in Mr. Bravo.
Well, he's none the worse for that, my dear.
Indeed, no.
See what he's done for Mrs. Cox.
It is not Mr. Bravo I object to. Mrs. Bravo is quite another matter.
Oh, well, I know nothing of that lady.
If she is a lady, I thought her vulgar. I'm sorry, Jane, I know you would defend her. She was determined to impress her station on me, and that is vulgar.
That is your second glass, Florence?
If I do not have it, I shall go to sleep.
Well, if you must.
I must not, but I will. And Jane will join me.
No, thank you.
Are you vexed? Because of what I said of Mrs. Bravo?
The occasion was unfortunate. I know, it was because of me.
Why should you say that?
When you meet again, I hope the circumstances will be more favorable.
Not very likely, I should think. I shall not call on her. And I very much doubt if she will call on me.
Well, they are often out of town.
It's getting late. I must go home.
Have you heard yet from your son?
Ah, yes, I meant to tell you. He has been able to arrange his holiday. I've promised so often to take him to Europe. It was impossible I should refuse him.
There is no reason why you should refuse him.
Except my preference. I'm very fond of William. He's a good son. But I would have liked to go with you.
Well, you've been to Europe many times.
Each one was new to me.
Well, I shall not weep for you. I am very fond of the seaside. Jane and I shall go to Brighton. Shan't we, Jane?
Florence, there is Mr. Charles Bravo. Do you think that they are staying in Brighton, too?
If you mean Mrs. Bravo, I certainly hope not. He's quite good looking.
Florence, I have met young Mr. Bravo.
What?
Just now in the street. I would not have spoken, but he crossed over.
And was he run down?
No.
Then why are you in such a flurry?
Because he is coming here this minute. He wanted to come with me, but I said I must speak to you first. Well, I didn't know whether you would receive him. There he is.
Then go and let him in.
You want me to show him in here?
For heaven's sake, Jane, it's only a man.
I didn't know whether you would see him.
Why not? For all I know, he may be jolly.
Are your parents staying with you, Mr. Bravo, in Brighton?
Yes, we're staying on the new estate.
Mrs. Ricardo told me she would see you. She lives here.
Good morning. I've brought you these.
Oh, how very kind. Put them in water for me, Jane, would you?
Oh, yes. Yes, of course.
I've been looking for you, you know. I saw you on the pier. It was you I saw first, actually. Then Mrs. Cox. And then I realized we had been introduced.
At your mother's, yes.
I'm on holiday at present between sittings, so I thought I'd come down to Brighton with my people. But really, it's beastly dull here, unless you know someone.
So dull you had to search for me.
Oh, if you play that sort of game with me, you'll find it easy. I'm always saying things so people catch me out.
But you're a barrister.
Yes, I know, it's rotten. I say, can I show you around the town a little? Have you visited the Dome or the Aquarium? Oh, and there's a ballad concert at the Assembly Rooms.
Oh, the pretty, pretty creature, when I next to meet her, no more like a clown will I face her frown, but gallantly will I treat her, but gallantly will I treat her. Oh, the pretty, 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 pretty creature. Oh, the pretty, 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 pretty creature. But then her wicked, charming eyes, when she looks up so kind, surprise, I like an awkward, foolish clown, I like an awkward, foolish clown, when she looks up, must needs look down. Oh, the pretty, pretty creature, when I next to meet her, no more like a clown will I face her frown, but gallantly will I treat her, but gallantly will I treat her. Oh, the pretty, 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 pretty creature. Oh, the pretty, 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 pretty creature.
Is it serious?
Of course it is serious. Why else should she have written to me? You see what the doctor says?
That your mother will shortly regain her strength.
And she is the only one who has troubled to let me know. My brother's wife. Poor dear Mama.
It is, after all, some time since you saw your parents.
By whose choice? Not mine. You don't suggest that.
They have no means of knowing your concern.
My brothers know it. My sister knows it too. I love my parents deeply. Our separation has been the greatest grief to me. It is one reason... They will not see me. They will never speak to me again unless I break with Dr. Gully.
Yes, it seems that is true.
What shall I do? I cannot allow my mother to die without having seen her. I never should forgive myself.
Florence, there is no suggestion in
If
the
not
letter.
now, it will be one day.
One day, of course.
There is only one thing that stands between us, and that is Dr. Gully. That is true. You know that's true, isn't it?
Yes, Florence, that is so. It was so from the very first.
How shall I tell him?
You are speaking of Dr. Gully.
How shall I tell him? If I must break with him. It will be better while he is out of England. I shall write a letter. No, it's too late. I shall send a letter to Orwell Lodge so he receives it on his return. Then I can see my mother.
Dr. Gully wrote that he would come to Brighton on his return to England.
Why, yes. So he did. Do you think I should wait until I see him? Perhaps I should. Oh, Jane. I have thought of this so long. I knew that it would come.
Has Mr. Bravo made some proposal?
Charles? Why should you ask that?
I merely wondered.
No. Mr. Bravo has made no proposal to me. Certainly not.
I was thinking only that if he should, Florence, you must tell him everything. For your sake and for mine as well. My position would be most difficult.
Your position?
Most certainly.
I should tell him everything.
Of course.
Even how Dr. Gully operated on me.
To remove his child.
I never knew that.
Of course you knew it.
Never. I had no idea of that. I knew you were fond of each other, of course. I've seen you walking in the garden with his arm about your waist, but...
You're quite absurd. If Mr. Bravo asks me, I shall tell him what is necessary, and that is all. We're not talking about Mr. Bravo. This has nothing to do with him. We're not discussing him at all. It's Dr. Gully I have to tell. After all these years, I have to tell.
I'm still a stuffed gownsman. That means I haven't taken silk, you know. One of the great briefless family. You find us at country sessions waiting for the soup to be doled round. Oh, that's prosecution briefs, one for each barrister.
I don't understand a word. You must be very clever.
Heaven preserve you in that dear delusion. Mind you, I mean to be successful. First at the bar, and then in Parliament. I know the sort of briefs I want. Not the showy stuff that gets in all the papers. The heavy commercial cases. That's where the tin is. And my governor's the man to find them for me with his contacts in the city. Do I sound hard-headed? I told you I was blunt. It gets me into trouble. I prefer that to hypocrisy and cant. The world's too full of it.
Oh, yes, it is.
Then I'd better tell you something else I want. I want you to marry me.
John.
You heard what I've just said. I can't make spoony speeches. I'm not the fellow for it. All I know is I want to marry you. I think you're stunning. I think we'd have such fun together. Be honest with me, you think so too?
Yes. But there are so many things...
I say don't spoil it.
We must remember, we're neither of us babies any longer.
Thank the Lord for that.
There are things to be considered. All sorts of matters.
I expect our governors will settle that.
Just money. I don't mean that.
I don't understand.
After all, we shall be giving up our freedom. Yours, as well as mine.
Oh, yes, of course. I see what you mean now. In that way. I'll tell you the honest truth, so far as I'm concerned. There has been a woman. She lives at Maidenhead. Actually, I don't want to see her anymore. I'm tired of all that. Even if I hadn't been, meeting you would have changed me. You can believe that or not, just as you choose.
I do believe you, Charlie.
Well, then. Oh, it's you. Someone else? Since your marriage, is that it?
I was very lonely. He was an old family friend. We've seen quite a lot of one another. His name is Dr. Gully.
I see. How old? I mean, how old is he?
He's a gentleman of 65.
Oh. Well, that's a very old family friend. Look here, as I said, our governors have got to talk. And then there's the question of my mother. I'd better warn you, she's not going to take to this too well. No, not because of you. She wouldn't want me to marry anyone. All I want to say is, will you think about it? Very seriously. You can either write to me at my chambers, or I'll be back before the end of the month. Will you think about it, Florence? That's the only promise I ask for now.
But if your mother objects, I could not enter a family where I wasn't wanted.
Tell me you want to marry me, and I'll soon settle my mama.
I will think about it. I promise that. And I do think you're a very good man.
I say, go easy. I don't want to lose my modesty. I expect you've noticed that.
Chambord is the most splendid, I suppose, an incredible profusion of turrets and gables. Did you know that Molière's Bourgeois Gentilhomme was first performed there in 1670?
No, I did not. How very interesting.
But it was Chenonceau I would most have wanted you to see. A chateau, how can I describe it? A fairy palace built on the water, miraculously balanced on a bridge of arches rising from the river. Such a sense of beauty and tranquility.
Sounds most beautiful.
I was reminded of Coleridge. grateful that by nature's quietness and solitary musings, all my heart was softened and made worthy to indulge love and the thoughts that yearn for humankind. My dear, you are silent.
I was thinking.
I think I shall make some tea.
Why? Didn't ask you.
I merely thought that...
Tea seems a very happy thought to me.
Just put the kettle on, excuse me.
My dearest,
You're going back tomorrow, then?
I fear I must.
Was there anything?
What, my love?
Griffiths could drive you to the station. What time is your train?
My dear James, in writing you this letter, I know that I must cause you the deepest pain. That is the reason, the only reason, I have delayed so long. My solitude, the separation from my family, has led me to feel I must be reunited with them. And the only way that this is possible is for me to break the bond between us. Our very, very dear friendship of the past 5 years. Mrs. Cox is again at the Priory, preparing for my return. A meeting between us now would, I know, be painful to both of us, but if it is your wish, Mrs. Cox returns here by the 8:25 from Croydon on Tuesday morning. If you telegraph me and travel by the same train, I could then meet you at the station.
And your mother's illness is your only reason for your wish to be reconciled with your family?
Yes.
There is no other. Is there no other?
I will not be bullied.
I do not bully you, Florence. I ask you to tell me the truth. Is there another reason that I must lose you other than your desire to see your family again? And I think I have the right to know the answer to that question.
A gentleman, Mr. Charles Bravo, has spoken to me. That is all.
And you have reached an understanding?
No. I do not know what I should say to him. I know so little. He has not even spoken of our acquaintance to his family.
Then he has not proposed. Answer me, Florence. I mean to have the truth.
I have told you. You asked to see me and I agreed. It is cruel of you to come here and upbraid me to say that I'm lying to you.
Forgive me. I spoke harshly. Florrie.
Mr. Bravo is a stranger to me. It is Mrs. Cox who knows his family. He spoke to me and I was lonely.
Mr. Charles Bravo is a barrister, I believe. Well, you must see more of one another. Perhaps he will prove a friend. I have only one desire for you, that you may be happy. Whatever wrongs I may have done you in the past, I hope you will believe that. I would not want to part from you on any other terms.
Oh, James, I'm so unhappy.
Poor little Florence. All will be well, you'll see.
I've made you unhappy too.
Oh, for a while I shall be, yes. But in the end, if our parting should bring you future joys, I should not then be sorry for anything. Only glad that for a while I had your love. Mine is yours forever.
Oh.
He was a friend. He was a very dear friend to me.
Yes, I know. You told me all about it.
Of course, I have written to him, and I have told him that I must never see his face again. It was hard for him to understand, but he has agreed, so that is over.
Over and done with, I assure you. That is what the past should be for both of us. I can't stand people who row with one another over something that is dead and gone. Mind you, not many women would have behaved as you have when a fellow's made the mistakes that I've done. That's what made me realize what a lucky chap I was to find you. And when I got your letter, I wanted to run out of my chambers and dance all round the temple gardens. However, it's bad form for barristers to use the gardens, so I reluctantly concluded that even a smallish dance would draw attention, and not the sort I need.
Charlie. What did you tell your mother? What did she say?
Well, I warned you, didn't I? I can't say she was greatly pleased at the prospect of losing her only boy.
But she remembered meeting me.
Oh, yes. And I know she'll love you. I can't think of anyone who wouldn't if it comes to that.
Thank you, kind sir.
My governor will do the right thing. Mamma won't stop us. All that remains is for him to meet your governor and settle on the terms. You haven't told them anything, I suppose?
I've written to my mother.
What did she say?
Not about us, you goose. I shall tell her when I see her, and I shall see her as soon as I'm home again. That is all arranged. Of course, there is another reason why I couldn't tell her anything.
Well, what's that?
Only a very small thing. I've not yet accepted your proposal. Had you forgotten?
But you wrote that letter.
Saying we must see more of one another.
We have seen more of one another. I've been here almost half an hour.
And you still haven't asked me, Mr. Bravo.
You little devil. You don't expect me to do all that again.
I most certainly do expect it.
It was bad enough the first time.
I want you to ask for my hand, and to do it nicely. I really think you ought to do it on bended knee.
Well, I shan't.
Are you going to ask me?
No.
No, John, no. No, Charlie, you shouldn't. It's wrong.
Now, will you marry me?
Yes. You're a very naughty boy. I think your mother must have spoiled you. I shall marry you and treat you very badly. It will do you good.
Yes, I shall enjoy that no end, I promise you.
He's in the drawing room waiting to see you. Welcome home to Buscott. Well, Robert, what do you think of her? I told you how well she looked. Papa?
Well enough. What have you been doing to your hair? It's darker.
Only the least bit.
Damn nonsense. I don't approve of that.
And this is Mr. Bravo.
How do you do, son?
Oh, and Mrs.
Hello.
Cox. We've met before. You remember, don't you, Robert?
Ah, yes, you came with the Brookses' brats.
Some years ago now.
By Jove, it was. Well, young fellow, I hear you're a barrister. Lucky there's money in your family. We must have a talk about that later on.
But not at present, Robert. I want a word with Mr. Bravo first. May I, Florence? Certainly, Mama.
Well, Mrs. Cox, tell me, these Brooks children, how old are
Mr. Bravo, I spoke on this to Florence when I saw her at the Priory last week. She told me she'd advised you of all the circumstances of her life up to the past few years, and what had been the cause of her estrangement from the family.
She told me you disapproved of Dr. Gully. I mean of her relationship with him.
Florence has told you of that.
Yes, she has told me everything, and I'm quite satisfied.
But have you told your parents? I believe that you should.
Really? Forgive me, but don't you think my parents should be left to me?
Well, I trust we shall not quarrel over it.
Not if I can help it, I promise you.
I believe that you should tell them, especially your mother, so that there may be no recriminations or unpleasantness afterwards.
Well, I'll give your answer. Sooner than do that, I would leave the country and you would never see me again.
You will marry my daughter and keep this from me?
Yes, I will. I know my mother and I know what would happen. Florence and I are old enough to judge for ourselves. The name of Dr. Gully will never be mentioned by me again, not to her nor to anyone.
But Mr. Bravo,
As I told you, Mother.
Well, I've given you my opinion. As you say, you are old enough to judge for yourselves. But this is a serious step you are taking. If you will not speak yourself, will you allow Mrs. Cox to do so? I do not know your mother.
I tell you, I would rather leave England and never see it again.
Charlie, you don't mean that.
Oh, yes, I do.
Well, come and talk to Papa. He wants to speak to you on money matters, and you know you'll enjoy that. Don't worry, Mama, I will manage it. Papa, you wanted to speak to Charlie?
Yes.
Mrs. Cox, I can't help but feel they're being very foolish. Has Florence told them everything?
I do not know, Mrs. Campbell. I do not think she has.
Then you must make her.
I've already done my best. She says she cannot.
Then you must speak yourself to Mrs. Bravo.
I would not dare. I will speak again to Florence. Perhaps she will tell him as soon as Mrs. Bravo approves the marriage. She has not met Florence since the engagement.
So, you see, it all went swimmingly. My governor was bowled over, and my mamma was eating from Florence's hand. I said we'd do it.
I'm still not sure she likes me.
Oh, she will. And your governor has come down handsomely. We've fixed the date, 14th of December.
Oh, that seems very soon. Your mother was most anxious that you should have time to know everything about each other.
We know that now.
Yes. Yes, well, I'm sure you will. You have the opportunity. And I must go to bed.
You take Mr. Skye, then?
Come along, Skye. Come along, Skye. Up you go.
Good night, Mrs. Cox.
Good night, Mr. Bravo. I'm so glad everything is settled, as I'm sure it will be. Good night, Florence. Come along, Skye.
Good little woman, isn't she, leaving us alone like that?
Charlie, there is something I have to tell you.
Tell me.
Yes. And when I've told you, I shall close my eyes. If you want to go, then you can walk out and I will never see you again. If not, you must come and take my hands. Do you understand?
All right, then. Tell me.
Dr. Gully and I were lovers. I didn't want to, but we were. Not because I loved him, because he made me feel sorry for him. I don't suppose you'll understand. It only happened once, when we were alone together in Bavaria. When we came back, I had a miscarriage. The pain was terrible. I told him I could never allow it to happen again. And it never did. I wished I didn't have to tell you, but I did. Charlie, if you want to go, go now. But if you do, go quickly.
Florence.
Will you take my hand? Oh. Oh. Was I wrong to tell you?
No.
Can it be still the same?
After all, you had been married, I knew that. I want you still to be my wife. But you must never see that man again. Only one thing I ask of you.
Anything, yes, of course.
You will never tell another soul of this as long as you shall live. Before God, you swear it?
I do. I do.
Then we shall never speak his name again.
You are the finest man I have ever known.
Since you have once gone wrong, I feel more certain you never will again. It's time I started home.
Oh, Matthew.
Mama hates me to travel late. She says I shall take cold.
Why don't you stay?
Are you sure?
Yes, of course. Why not? We have an extra bed.
And go home in the morning? Yes.
Yes. It's a cold, damp night. It would be better tomorrow. My little boy shall sleep. Charlie, what do you want?
I'm cold. It's freezing.
You mustn't. Go back to bed.
Why? You let him?
Charlie, you promise. No. Oh, my love, be gentle. Charlie, be kind.
Dearest.
No.
You must.
No, Charlie, please.
I must.
Oh, let me. Like this.
No.
You can, like this.
No. Oh, dear. Oh, my dear one. Oh. Oh, my love. Forgive me.
Charlie, wake up. Charlie, it's morning. You must wake up. Hurry. You must go back to bed.
Oh, Lord.
Your blanket's on the floor. Charlie, put it on.
Right. Oh, of course.
Hurry. Someone will see you. Over there on the washstand. Charlie!
Ugh, that's better. I hope no one does see me.
Not if you're quick.
Looks so damn silly. Be better in my wig. Are you cross with me? Tell me.
You're a very naughty boy. But I shall train you. I warned you, didn't I? Go back to bed. Quietly. I shall marry him. Treat him very badly. Does him good. This is the best bedroom.
It's quite a mansion.
You shall have your lodge, and I 10 acres.
Dear Florrie, I had your love, and mine is yours forever.
Oh, my.
Thank you.